Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Wolves Fancast, part of the 90min Football Network. Joining me this evening, we've got Stu.
No Huddersfield, hurrah. Hello.
We've got Tom.
Hello.
And we've got Adam.
Yes, second Stu's comments. Very happy that Forest have done the business tonight.
I was going to say, I think that's something we can all get behind, isn't it? Yeah, no. Especially considering Wolves' record against Huddersfield.
Yeah, they were all kryptonite, weren't they, for a little bit?
Let's be honest, we're all just going to get a Fancast table booked at table number 1 at Hooters, aren't we? That's what we're going to do.
It's not going to happen. We'll have them Boxing Day 12:30. We all know this. They'll ruin our fun.
Hooters. We're still going to Hooters.
It's a rough shift.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, I was going to say, at least we know we're playing next season now, which, let's say, out of the three that's come up, the most interesting one's Forest, but they're also probably most likely to go down as well. Because although I think their manager is a genuinely fantastic coach, that team's got a lot of improving to do to stay up, because they might not get the VAR decisions.
I did see the Premier League for next season all by badge logo, and just seeing Forest there was like just a little tinge of nostalgia. Just seeing the Forest logo there. It's a shame it's still ruined by having like Bournemouth's badge in there, but
I know.
Hopefully they'll go next year.
Yeah, I think I do that. I think there's a good chance all three promoted teams will go straight back down again. Like more than has been through a little bit of a while, but we're not here to talk about everyone else. We're here to talk about Wolves and do our season review. We're going to do our unofficial official awards. Going to look at what we think might happen in the off season as well, and end on a couple of quiz questions as well. So, I don't think I've had a season that's been so hard to sum up in a while, because we have been peak, mid-table, inconsistent. We've had the ups, we've had the downs, we've had drama, we've had narrative, you name it. And I think it's really interesting that kind of whoever you talk to, like you'll look at the season differently. So like some will say it's not been a good season because of where we were. We've had some will say, it's fantastic because it's improvement on last season. But I'm going to throw it to you guys to argue out about whether we've been good, bad, or a nice little bit of grey in the middle. So to kind of recap, just in case you are listening or watching this, if you're watching it live, hello everyone, good to see you all. Make sure you're subscribing, you're commenting. I'll do your best to show it in the on the video as well. But if you're a Wolves fan watching this, and you weren't already aware, we finished 10th on 51 points with -5 goal difference. At the start of this time last year, we've got rid of Nuno, end of an era. Tom, are you taking that?
I think after reflecting on everything, yes. And particularly today, I think seeing Forest go up in the playoff final, and considering it's been, 30 years since they were last even in the top tier of English football. And we look how far we've come. And I know that there are lots of fans that say, well, it's not about looking how far we've come. It's about constantly, seeing where you are and trying to be the best you can in that position. But I'm going to sit back and I'm going to think, yeah, okay, 51 points, 10th. I mean, it could be a lot worse. We could be one of those teams like the Huddersfields, the Notts Forests, who are like constantly trying to get up into that top tier and to sit comfortably in mid-table, considering the kind of shit that we've watched, not only this season, but in the past 10 to 15 years. I think it's easy to complain, but I'm going to accept it. for sure. I think I've come to terms with it.
Yeah, Stu. So slightly different question, just to open up the table. Where would you have taken Wolves finishing on the 1st of January? So I was going to say halfway through the season. It wasn't. It was we played 18 games at that point, but we were 8th in the league, level points with Leicester, with Brighton a point behind us. Halfway through the season, would you have taken 10th? Dropping 2 points, but overall?
It's not fault. I mean, I would never really thought that we get it. I didn't think we'd qualify for Europe anyway. I never. There was a couple of episodes where I said, "Oh yeah, we're full on the Champions League train, all that kind of fun and games." But really, I was never fully in on the whole hype of it all because I know what we like, and I said it with 6 weeks to go that we'd only get 5 points. We ended up getting 2, and I probably would have took 8th. So 10th is, from that point of view, it's a disappointment. But you look at it, start of the season, I said 16th. It's an improvement on what I expected, but that was with the caveat of being entertaining. That part wasn't met for a long time, so but I think 10th with 38 goals from 38 games says everything, and the fact that we are there is a minor miracle. So you got to take it here.
So Adam, Positive Club Price, where are you sitting on this? Because I know you're pushing your like. I mean, I had Bruno down. I did a podcast with Stu back in February, was it, Stu? When I did a graphic saying Bruno Lage, man of the season, ? And I think it is literally all gone to pot since then. But
yeah, there's a context you can apply to this, can't you? So you said before about what came before. So what came before was just a dirge of a season under Nuno. And then has there been improvement this season? Well, the table, just looking at the table, says yes, we have improved. That's only one part of the story. The other part of the story is, look at what we could have won. That angle. We had that period where we just constantly, and we'll get into this more as we get into the weeds of the season. But we had that period of the season towards the end when every week we were just presented a 7th place opportunity on a silver platter, and every week we just seem to just say no thanks, not this weekend, not this weekend. And I don't know how many times a team wants to take an opportunity, but the bit that I have been positive about the season, and yes, I was on the Champions League, not so much the Champions League train, but the European football train. I was on the Europa Conference League train for sure, but.
Is that really a train? I'm thinking if we're calling Champions League a train, what will we then call in the next 2 tiers down?
The Conference League train, well then Rattler ones, like a London Midland one, I guess. That's they'll get you to all of the middling stops on the way. That's what the Conference League. But you still enjoy it. It still gets you to where you need to be.
Yeah. I would say it's one of those electric scooters that you get off the side of the road and will just take you to another part of town. It's quite entertaining, but it's not going to get you to fucking London or anything like that.
Yeah, not in any kind of style or comfort, is it? No.
No, but you caveat it against all that, and you think yes, we've had a good season because we've progressed, but. It's obviously like the cliche that I always hate is, I would have taken such and such at the start of the season. Like, it's always how the season pans out. If you'd have said, I'd have took 10th to start the season, but considering that we threw away 7th like 20 times, you think no, we really should have ended up doing better than what we've ended up finishing. Yes, 10th is an improvement. Factually, just is because we were 13th last year, I think it was.
Yeah.
So 10th is factually an improvement. However, it hasn't been an improvement enough, because now what happens is that we're going to start to lose players because we haven't got to really where we should have been. And I'm sure that's the opening gambit anyway, and I'm sure we'll jump more into it as we go through the specifics.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's dive right into the thicket then. And one of, I guess, the biggest themes that's kind of come up with what you guys have talked about initially is style of play. Because, again, this time last season in the off-season, Bruno comes in, and I think by and large, I say us, whether us as a fan cast or whatever, or wider, we all kind of bought into, we're going to play better football now. And he was talking the talk. And I think, as Stu said before, you know, it was looking like we are going to go for a back four until he played a preseason friendly with these players. And realised, yeah, that ain't happening. And the season started off, I was going to say, weirdly positive, didn't it? With those three defeats. But I don't think I've ever been so optimistic as a Wolves fan, losing 3 on a bounce, thinking, I did podcasts with not just with you guys, because, you know, I'm big in the game, you know. I'm a big deal. I don't want, yeah. I'm a big deal with one podcast who sometimes call me up when they're, you know, when other people more knowledgeable aren't available. But we're all confident, and through a myriad of reasons, things change. But do you think a lot of us just hold on a lot of hope for those first 3 games of the season? That's kind of strung us along for a large bit of it. Because even after that, it only really happened in drips and drabs, that free-flowing style, didn't it, Stu? I can think of like 4 games where I was like, and even then that was half games, like against West Ham and Everton, for example, first half of the season.
Yeah, it was almost like he got scared by not getting anything at all out of them first 3, playing so well, creating so many chances, being so utterly useless in front of goal, and thinking, well, if we can't score, then we're going to have to make sure that we can defend. And that seemed to be the theme of the season after just 3 games, which is just completely odd, considering you think, well, you look who we played in them first 3 games as well. It's not
all
like
3 of them finished above us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, half the league finished above us, really. But,
that's a very fair comment, Stu. But
yeah, but
they should all be beating us in theory. Like, you know, they are all better teams than us.
Yeah, and that was the point, that we played so well against teams like that. He didn't give it a chance to play like that against the mid-table, against the Plankton that were there if we'd beaten. So it was just bizarre how he just changed on a dime, and we never really got back to them heights, really. It's just weird.
Yeah, it was.
It was really strange, wasn't it? Like the fact that we were so used to, at that point, we're still obviously, you know, getting over the Nuno ball, or the, you know, the dregs a bit at the end of the season, and then we cut those first 3 games. So it was Leicester, Spurs, and Man United. What was it? Over 20 shots a game against each of those 3 teams, and certainly after the 2 home games, I remember like all the fans still applaud, even after like the Man United game, which was the 3rd loss on the spin. Team still applauded off, and everyone was thinking, "This is all right. This is, we're having like 20 shots a game. It's going to come good eventually. It just is." But then, yeah, it's as Stu said, I can only assume his thought, well, if this carries on, if I talk up another loss, it could be like a Frank de Boer situation here, where I'm gone after a month. You know, after losing 4 on the spin, especially if we don't take the cup first match as well, the Worthington Cup. I forgot what it's called, Carabao Cup. So if we dumped out of that early doors, you must have just thought, I've got to change it now. And then, I mean, all right, it was Watford was their 4th league game, so they're like a bit of cannon fodder that we probably needed to get up and running. But after that, yeah, he almost reverted back to a type of Nuno ball, didn't it? For the rest of the season, where we went just now, we're gonna have to play defensive now, because I can't trust us after these 3 games against, as we said, strong teams. Hasn't really given it a proper chance, and then we've kind of reverted to more functional football and have our defence bail ourselves out of games constantly.
Now,
I agree. Yeah. I agree. I think that when you talk about that United game at home, actually, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, it was great to see us wallop Watford 4-0, but as you say, they were cannon fodder. They were destined to get relegated at that point anyway. And I found that game where we lost 1-0 to Man United way more entertaining, way more enjoyable. I got more out of that game, I think, I enjoyed watching us move the ball more in that game because there was so much kind of potential and promise, and everyone walked away from that game feeling very, very kind of optimistic in a way. And yeah, you're right, that style of play just kind of diminished as the season went on. It was really frustrating.
Yeah, do we think that, I guess the style change, and I'll pull up a graphic about kind of our style in a minute. Do we think it was led because we didn't have the players to consistently do it? So we had this great attacking form, and like free flowing football, but the chances just kept falling to a dime a trial those first 3 games, didn't they? It's like not the play that you want it to. So it was almost like a case of, well, if we create some chances, we'll get one in eventually. But if we tighten up at the back, then we are so less likely to concede any goals that we can just play, a bit of football by numbers, a very efficient football style. And it kind of seemed to just happen quietly overnight. But do you think it was led because he didn't think we had the players to do it, because we weren't kind of going to be able to, absolutely hammer teams? Or what really? Or you say, like, so you kind of sort of alluded to, Price was actually, if we'd have lost against Watford, would have people been really questioning his methods?
I mean, funnily enough, you look at the actual scorelines, and we were conceding like 6 and getting absolutely pummeled like Leeds, which is kind of, I still don't understand where it came from, because it was, we were creating chances and we were giving some up, but we wasn't conceding, and that carried on throughout the season anyway. Like we talked about last week, with Jose's Hart saving our arse most of the time. So we tightened up by not going forward more than anything else, but we still let shots away all over the place. I think it was just the fact that he was scared. It was just a reaction, I think. So probably a bit of both.
I'll say, in the YouTube comments, Wayne Mackey, who's a regular kind of listener to the show, sort of said, you should be talking about the first 3 games of the season. You should be talking about the final 3, because that's where we are now. But I think there's a really interesting parallel within that, because obviously we barely got any points. But we were scared in a different way at the end of the season, weren't we? That we just seemed to be, I don't know, just genuinely afraid of our own shadows at certain points.
Yeah, I'm frustrated with how Kilman just fell out of favour, didn't he? I think it was after the Palace game in the beginning of March. And when you think about the whole season from the August to March, it's a lot of football. But then it seemed to be that one game in March, 2/3 into the season, where he didn't have a particularly good game, and it could be argued that he was responsible for one of those goals in the 2-0 loss that just completely fell out of favour. And I think we heaped too much. Well, Bruno heaped too much expectation on Bolly, who, let's be honest, for the last 2 years has been inconsistent. And even though he had a brilliant season in that Europa League season and the season before that, I think that he was not the right person to come in for. I think Kilman should. I just feel really confused by that. And because I think arguably up until March, he was probably our best player, and, fitness and things like that, I understand that. But I think that we should have prioritised getting him into the squad as much as possible, personally.
Yeah, I think the Palace game you mentioned, I've kind of said before, I think that was a bit of a catalyst for our season turning. And I know that, I was sort of talking about at the start in terms of, what did we think expectation at the start of the season, midway through the season? And it seemed like there was a couple of turning points in the second half of the season. Particularly for me, that Palace game was one, because I think of the fallout from the players afterwards with Hoover, who, we talked about at the time about, whether he deserved it, whether it was right or wrong of Bruno to come out so publicly with it. But there were a couple of turning points around then. And I think injuries was a big factor in our form second half of the season, particularly around, losing Kilman was massive, losing Semedo was massive as well. and the players who came in, by and large, didn't contribute to the levels they need to. Bolly comes in. He had a couple of good games, literally at both ends of his spell in the team. But beyond that, he has some really poor ones. Donk comes in for Neves. The drop-off's very obvious, isn't it? And we just seem to really struggle to find any kind of momentum second half of that season or sort of last third of the season. What would you guys sort of say the turning points were then?
There's got to be. You can blame him for a lot, to be fair, to be honest. But he'll be dead in 3 years anyway. So that's all right. I mean, February was obviously the big one because that was we were literally, I think we were level pegging with West Ham at that point, only 2 points behind Arsenal, and we lost consecutive games to West Ham and Arsenal, and then that Palace 2-0 as well. So that was just a massive shock, like shot to our confidence, really. But again, we had more opportunities. Again, we had the Leeds game, which that was just inexplicable. The Leeds game, really, to be 2-0 up, and then Jimenez gets his second red card of the season. That game completely changes, and we blow that one. And then, just as we said, the way we finished the season was just an embarrassment. It just how it all petered out. So, I mean, we didn't win for the last seven games. We lose games. We've had really poor runs against teams that we should be beating. So we never beat Norwich this season. We had two.
But I mean, that's just classic.
Norwich.
That's just classic Wolves.
3
isn't it, though?
And then we didn't beat Burnley. So 2 out of the 3 that went down, we didn't beat. So we lost to Burnley. We drew 0-0 with them at home. Palace did a double over us as well. I mean, I know we've got a bit of a hoodoo at their place, and it's never a fun place to go, Selhurst. But there's just some games there where, you think it's just what's going on? Why we? It's just these sort of games where we should, if we want to get to where we want to be, we've got to be putting sort of those teams to the sword, especially in Norwich's and Burnley's. They're mind you, though, the old argument goes, if you can't beat them, you get what you deserve. But we went through decent spells as well. I think we had a couple of 5-game runs where we didn't lose, and we had good spells. That's what a good turning point. That's what shot us up the table a little bit. But ultimately, there was too many spells where we just kept blowing it.
Yeah, I think one of the.
It's a frustrating thing, isn't it? When you beat Man United in January, and that's such a huge game, and our game plan was so brilliant, and we play so well, but then we lose to Norwich and Burnley, and throw away two leads. It makes those amazing performances go to waste, doesn't it? It's so frustrating. It's you put all of that effort into away from home at Old Trafford, beat a team which, arguably have struggled this season, but still are monoliths in the Premier League, and then throw it away to teams that we should be easily beating.
Yeah, I think one of the big things for Wolves is that one of the reasons why we got to 10th, and it's one of the reasons why we couldn't progress any further, is the amount of games we drew. But some of those that, as Pricey mentioned, we had a couple of runs which kind of pushed us up the table because we got 3 wins on the bounce, or we got a couple of really solid results one after the other and got that bit of momentum. But we then had stinkers second half of the season where we lost 3 games in a row, but then we'd win one, and it kind of evened itself out enough to kind of push us forward. But you take out the last couple of draws against Chelsea and Norwich as well, and we were weirdly low. But when you compare again those 3 first games of the season, but also losing 1-0 to West Ham, and they're losing to even likes of Burnley, and that is just games where, particularly that West Ham one, because I know we'd got our, we're licking our wounds after that Arsenal game. And again, those were 2 games where just get out with points, and we couldn't. particularly one where we lost 2-1, we just needed to dig our heels in and get a draw, because at that point, that meant just Arsenal just frogged us in the table within a month after beating us twice. And that's, I guess, kind of style-wise overall, we did really struggle with that game management in certain situations, and particularly Bruno, in terms of some of the tactics he chose, or if they didn't quite work, he didn't quite know how to change it, or whether the players weren't capable of adapting, which I think is probably a fair thing to throw out as well.
Yeah, like that Palace game as well. The Palace at home, we all said on the preview show and the week before, if we go into that Palace game the same approach as we did at Selhurst, they're going to batter us again, because we can't play against that kind of press. And lo and behold, look what happens. I mean, I jokingly mentioned Putin, but it was no coincidence that Kilman did suffer after the whole Ukraine thing, and then taking him out, brought Bolly in, who had one good game, like we mentioned last week. But then Kilman was brought back in out of position, and he never got his form back. And you think, well, just weird stuff like that, and not being able to see patterns in games. And I mean, it's not even a pattern, is it? You look at the games against the teams that we've already played once this season, and you think, okay, did it work? Yes. Okay, we'll do it again. Did it work? No. We'll change it then. He never changed it.
The only game he did against Brentford.
Yeah. I was just about to say
beyond that, I can't think of any.
There was a weird pattern forming towards the end of the season when we were getting multiple changes to the lineup per game, weren't we, as well? The lineup was settled for a period, and then I don't know when exactly, I can't pinpoint it, but when I walk up to the ground from home, I get the team news part way through. I'm looking at my phone as I'm walking up, and consecutive home games, looking at it thinking, oh well, there's another 3 changes today, or there's another 2. The following game will be another couple of changes. He couldn't. It's almost like he suddenly, in an aspect, to try and get back on track. He's just trying different things now, just to see what sticks. What was working before now wasn't, and you could just tell he was just trying to change things. And I guess this is what leads into some kind of doubt about Bruno, is that this has all come at the wrong time for him. So if you invert our season, and if he starts off slowly, then we've finished strong. Everyone would all say, let's get, this is good. Give him the summer to strengthen. We'll carry the momentum into next season, etc., etc. But as it's inverted now, and he's finished on such a poor run, that just then leads people to start asking the question of, is he actually the right guy? Should we, now it's the close season, should we take this time there to make a change? And we've mentioned before, or I'm sure it's been out there, we've talked about it ourselves in here, about he's got form at Benfica for not being able to change a poor run. It's been, I think that was the reason why he was sacked, wasn't it? Because he went on a very poor run at Benfica. He couldn't address the slide, and they've got rid of him. Now he's got, luckily for Bruno, he's got this natural pause now where he's got a couple of months to take stock, hopefully get the players in that he wants, use a pre-season to get the position, the formation that he wants, and hopefully take it forward. Because as we said, how the season finished, we just as one of the comments that said there, we just didn't look like scoring. We just had this inability to be able to threaten the goal, and their forward line, especially Jimenez, would barely get a touch all game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that if you could mix Bruno and Hasenhüttl or something like that, where, as you said, when things aren't going right for us this season, Bruno just found himself in a rut that he couldn't get himself out of. And if you added that little bit of the Hasenhüttls, who can seem to get battered by some team and then go on a really decent run of 2 or 3 games where they win, just to kind of bring some equilibrium. Granted, they didn't finish as high as us in the league, but do you see what I mean? Like that, there needed to be some kind of element of, right, that didn't work. Let me calmly try and figure something out so that we can actually try and salvage some points in the next games, rather than either doubling down or which is quite controversially throw players under the bus or whatever it might have been. But I feel like he lacks that skill of being able to diagnose problems and then calmly try and rectify them in the next games.
Yeah,
he has.
like,
I was going to say he has been a first team coach / manager for 30 months in his entire career.
Was he a player? Did he have a career or
no, not really.
Just, okay.
I mean, like, it is a I was gonna say a useful knack to have as a manager, but it's almost an intuitive one in terms of like understanding like the flow of a game, things like that. Like, Harry Redknapp, for example, do I think he's a particularly great coach or manager or go down in history? Probably not, no. But he did have a bit of a knack of knowing the flow of the game. Well, Zinedine Zidane's an even better example. Like, he's no tactical mastermind, but he'd bring on subs or whatever. Carlo Ancelotti, like yesterday, we all knew how that game was going to pan out. As we all do the eyebrows for the audio listeners. But you kind of just knew he was just going to ride it out and then go, right, I'll bring on the fresh legs and things. But it's a really good point you made, Tom, that he kind of didn't, he almost didn't know how to fix it. Now, do we think a lot of it comes down to the fact that the big thing he's hammered for about 6 months up until the end of the January transfer window was the lack of signings we made? So, in terms of ones we actually made this year, it wasn't actually that many. When you genuinely look at it, that have impacted the first team. And I've realised I've not updated the bit on the bottom, but essentially in terms of incoming signings, we got in Jose Sarr, which I think we can all agree has been a fantastic signing, but he was a replacement goalkeeper. We brought in Trincao. Aït-Nouri was technically a signing this season because we didn't actually activate a loan clause for him. We signed him. Hwang Hee-chan, loan and brought, and then Chiquinho as well, who's been, an absolute diamond in the rough, it feels like. So it's not exactly like we did lots of improving to the team overall to kind of really help Bruno, particularly, when we look at it. So what have we got? Goalkeeper, 2 wingers, a striker and left wing back. I mean, not exactly like much down the middle of the park, is it?
No, and people are getting excited for this summer as well. It was just shit, wasn't it? Let's just put it this way: the transfer windows for the last 4 have been pretty awful, to be honest. And yeah, no one's made a difference, have they? I think that's the problem. No, I mean, like you said, Sarr was a replacement for Ruby. He's probably kept us in the top half of the table. But outfield wise, no one's done anything. I
mean, I was going to say, like, none of them have been like super key additions. I mean, Aït-Nouri, I think he's clearly someone who's got a very good future ahead of him. But I think because we had him last season, we've seen that natural development. But I know we'll talk about Trincao second half of the show anyway. But he is not someone who's dramatically improved Wolves. Hwang, bar 6 games.
Not a chance.
Yeah. I was going to say, we did our player report card show last week, didn't we, Stu? And we gave Hwang an optimistic 4.5 out of 10. And it's like, that's not what you want to hear as a football player, isn't it? And again, like Chiquinho as well, really interesting player. See him coming on, but it almost felt like we kind of stumbled into that one a little bit. So it's not like he had a lot of help, and then kind of outgoings wise as well. That we actually only sold 3 players last summer. We sold Rafa Mir, Rui Patricio, and Owen Osazawi. Now, I think we just kind of scrap Owen Osazawi because, he's fuck knows what's going to happen to him, but it ain't going to be football. Patricio, I think that's kind of worked out for all parties. He's gone and won the Conference League. We've got Sarr. Everyone's happy. Now, the one I kind of wanted to sort of pick apart, and, we've got it in the YouTube comments somewhere about, we ain't looking like scoring. Do we think that selling Rafa Mir, bearing in mind we've made fuck all signings, like it's not like I think we sold him for like 15 mil, was it?
Yeah.
Did all right for
Yeah, I
him.
think so.
But we've basically swapped Hwang for Rafa Mir.
If you look at Rafa Mir's stats for this season, it's actually eye-watering. It's 10 goals in 34 games for Seville. That's a good result for him in his first season.
It's more than any Wolves player's got this season.
Well, that's what I mean. And yeah, I completely appreciate that La Liga is a different kettle of fish to the Premier League, that sometimes if you score 10 goals in 34 games in La Liga, that doesn't necessarily translate to the Premier League. I understand that. However, since he originally signed for us, then gelled to wherever he went, Huesca or wherever it was he went, he has consistently scored goals. And I think it's one thing to say, okay, he can score 10 goals for Seville in one season, but wherever he's gone, he has scored. So yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, that one. And I would be really interested to see in a Wolves shirt how he could do in a Premier League season if we actually gave him a shot. But you know,
I mean, especially when you compare him to because essentially he was arguably second or third choice behind Jimenez and Silva. Now, if you take Silva out of the equation, because I mean he's that level younger,
take a £35 million signing out the equation.
Yeah, you take that huge elephant albatross off his back. But I mean, we've talked about Jimenez before. He has really struggled this season. You look back on it, and you know, I think Dan Boyle's in the comments says, "I think he made it clear he didn't want to play for us." I think he would have.
Yeah,
personally, I think he might have done if he had the chance, but you know, I think by
that point he was he had it. He didn't really. His heart wasn't in it here, to be honest. He'd only had a couple of games for us. He went to Forest, didn't do it there either. Going back to Spain just kind of suited him, to be honest. That was shown at Huesca. He scored a truckload for them, considering the fact I think they went down, didn't they?
Yeah.
Huesca. And then he's got his move to Seville, Sevilla. And it's worked out for him. Yeah, he's probably where he wants to be, and that's shown that the enthusiasm of being where he is come out in his football. And to be honest, if he was here, he'd have had nothing created for him anyway.
Yeah.
So I dare say that, you know, at least at Sevilla, you know, he's had opportunities to have shots on goal. Whereas,
I mean,
you know,
one thing I will sort of say is, like, even when you look at the outgoings, you know, I pointed out that, you know, in our signings, even when you look at the development squad players that we got, like Karabe, now he is a midfielder, but clearly they didn't expect him to be ready to compete for first team second half of the year. But it's not like, I was going to say, there was only really one player in terms of those loan players that I think we missed in terms of that creative void, and that was Gibbs White. But, you know, out of those loans as well, you know, Ronan's done very well up in Scotland, which is great. Shaw Dow, we hardly knew ye. Joined.
Still waiting to get on.
Yeah, he's still waiting to get on. But yeah, you know, the reason why I included Gibbs White, Sarkic, and Ronan is because they've all had fantastic loan spells, and it's the loan system working for us. So hopefully, you know, we're going to do something with Gibbs White, whether it's he plays first team football for us or we sell him for 20 mil. I can personally see him going to Forest, but yeah, that's you know, that's an easy rumor, isn't it? You know, I might get that on Twitter later.
Well, we're talking about loans. Just out of curiosity, I just had a look at William Jose this season. 8 goals in 32 games.
Of course, he has.
So was he that awful as well, or was this terrible Wolves system that Nuno destroyed last season a hangover and a hindrance to him as well?
I tell you what, mate, I completely forgot about that bloke. William Jose was the most forgettable player. Handsome bloke. Maybe a kind of maybe a Poundland Giroud, but I don't know. Like, you wanted it to work for him. I just think we've had William Jose, Catrone, just these, like stallion European chaps come in, and you want them to do brilliantly, but it's just been a flop, hasn't it? And Catrone's that Empoli or whatever is not particularly anything to write home about either.
Yeah, don't worry, he's only 3 behind.
We've still got him. We've still got he can still make a glorious return.
As Steve Griffiths says in the comments, Catrone got 3 goals this season, only 3 behind him, and I'm pretty sure he got 1 of those goals on the last game of the.
Yeah. How many red cards did he get?
I would say the only other outgoing, and we probably spent, God, how many weeks, Stu, did me and you talk about Adama Traore and that bloody transfer saga? But we talk about head scratching decisions. That loan move's just been financially / anything else just piss poor from the club.
It's not as if anyone, all of us, probably all 30,000 people that get on you every week have said this deal is a piece of shit. It's not as if it was all saying as soon as it come out, and that's why people want like Sellers' head on the stick, don't they? Because, like, why would you sanction that deal when it's just completely stacked against us? It makes no sense. We're just giving away a player. I know, obviously, there's a debate to be had on how effective a player he has been this season, but nevertheless, we've just given away a player for nothing, and they don't even want him now. So he's going to come back to us, tail between his legs, having not worked out at his dream club or his hometown club. And now, what is he going to expect to walk back into our first team again, or what? We've created a bit of a situation for ourselves here now with this, because I don't know. Whoever sanctioned it, whoever thought that was a good idea at the time, needs a firework up their arse.
No, I think I'm one of the minority in the group chat that would welcome him back, and I would start him at the beginning of the season. I'd start him. I would give him until the middle of October and just see what he can do. I don't know. I'm really, really of the school of thought that when Traore is playing in our team, he makes things happen just passively off the ball. I don't know what it is. I mean, I am not a tactician. I'm just a football fan. But there's something about him being on the pitch that excites me, and I think does change things. And I don't know, his statistics. I know that his statistics this year, Chiquinho's statistically been better than him in regards to kind of what he's been able to create. But there's something about him when he's in your squad, he does scare players.
To be fair, we've said it for a while, haven't we? That when we bought him from Middlesbrough, so why Wolves getting him a newly promoted team, and they're saying because no one can fit the pieces together, and the problem remains now. I'm with you, Tom. He's my son's favourite player, and he loves him, and I think if you get it again, it's one of those where it's exciting. If the pieces could all be put together, then it's all there for him. But how long have we been? And I'm just caveating myself here, but we've been saying this for a very long time now, haven't we? And he's gone to Barca. He's gone to his hometown club where it should have all just come together for him. He's in an attacking team, high quality players around him, and it's still not working for him. I'm kind of thinking that he would have worked better for Wolves if we had a different formation and a more attacking setup. I mean, look, we go back against the first 3 games of the season. We were much more attacking then, and all the chances all fell to him. And then we've reverted back to type, and then he's reverted to type again. He's our most attacking outlet. He's got no one around him to help him get the best of him. He's probably when he's crossing, if he gets on target, then he's only got Jimenez in the box to aim for essentially, and that drags him down further. I think in their current setup, we're never going to get the best out of him anyway. But like I say, now we've just got. There'll be an interesting decision to make about him in the summer because Barca don't want him and he doesn't want to be here by the looks of it. So what's his next step?
Yeah, Stu, I'll hold your thoughts on Adama for the second half of the show because he's one of 3 players when I'll talk about, what potentially might happen to him. But with Adama, there's always this question mark of potential and whether he's improved or not this season, up for debate or whatever. But some players have improved this season. And I picked out sort of 4. We won't talk about them in kind of any great lengths, who I think we can probably all agree have improved from last season, from what we saw throughout pretty much the entire campaign in terms of Neves, Kilman, Semedo, and Aït-Nouri are all significantly better players, May 2022 than they were May 2021. Now, do you think that's because of the manager and the coaching, or do we think that's the players naturally developing as well, or a bit of both? Because, again, I think all of them have been really, really good this season for myriad of reasons.
Well, if you look at if we were prepared, we could have gone back and got the clip from 12 months ago and said, "Oh, Static, welcome." So replying to the YouTube comments to the audio people there. If you go back 12 months, I said, what would you do with Neves? You'd probably get about 20 million for him. His performances last season, when he'd been shackled to death by Handbrake and co. And then you look at him now, and we're all arguing, well, you don't want him anything less than 50 is a disgrace. That's not natural progression. That's coaching as well, and being allowed to do what he's good at. So I think not just the 4 you just picked, Rich. I mean, there's quite a lot of there's been very few players that have gone backwards this season. There's been more individual progression than there has not. So I think it just goes to prove. I mean, you look at everyone who's been coached by Bruno Lage at Benfica as well. You look at players who've moved on to better things. Even João Felix, the obvious one. They'll speak so highly of him as a coach. So I don't think it's no surprise, and he doesn't have to get credit for that, for individual progression. It's just his other things that's left to be desired. But as a coach, I don't think we can question him one bit, really.
Yeah, I think that Semedo, I think by his own admission, had a tricky first season here in his recent interview, and he was really one of our standout players. Kilman, obviously, in the club, he's been one of our star players without a doubt until obviously what we've already discussed when he's a little bit of a downturn. Neves, season of his life, season of his career, really, he's just been an absolute. I don't know what's the correct sort of word to use, but he's just been essential to anything that we want to do. Yeah, all of the above. He's been everything that we wanted him to be and more this season. He's kind of held it all together, and he deserves better, as we know. And then Aït-Nouri, yeah, he has improved, but then we've also seen he's had this weird sort of conundrum where he doesn't play for a few games, and there's these rumours about him not being able to manage two consecutive games or something weird like that. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. I don't think any of us really know what's going on, but he's another one that's it's all there in front of him. He's got everything to be a fantastic player for us, and I think he cost about 9 mil, didn't he? So that's a snip in today's terms, really. So yeah, those 4. We're obviously going to lose one of them, and we all know who. Those 4 we're going to lose in the summer. But with the other 3, we're hoping to get the next season to kick on again and be even better.
Yeah. Shall we round up the season with a couple of unofficial official awards? I don't know whether they should be unofficial official awards or official unofficial awards. Whichever works.
Official, unofficial.
Official.
Right. I think the first one, I was going to say it's fairly easy, but I've kind of got a couple of minds. But the first one, I didn't put it on social media, is goal of the season. So I will put on my awards jacket.
A lovely job.
Thank you. Thank you. You can see I've become very prepared for this, by which I mean it's been on the back of the chair since Friday.
That's the parents' evening jacket.
It is.
And for the audio people, it's not woolen.
It's a sequin jacket in wash, Rich.
It is. You know what? It's in the washing machine as well. That's how well I take care of it, and so's the
Shame
bow
that
tie
is.
as well. It is a real shame. So goal of the season. What we're going for, guys? Nevers against Watford.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got to be, hasn't it? Has
Yeah.
to be.
Honourable mention for Jimenez versus Southampton, maybe. I know it was a bit of a hoofball up to the top of him, but the reward and the moment.
Yeah, I would. That was going to be my second. I think just from the context of where I was watching it as well. I was in London in a pub full of Southampton fans, and it was a very, very. It was a very, very sweet. It was great seeing that goal go in, and particularly just the elation on his face in that celebration. It was a good experience all round for him and for me to watch. For sure. But yeah, it's got to be Nevers against Watford.
Now, we've used this phrase a few times in the show so far, and I liked it because you could use it in any context, but head scratcher of the season. So, I'm going to go around the room. I'm going to go for mine first. It's not the strongest because we've had a few great ones on Twitter as well. But I'm going to go for Jimenez's sending off against Man City. Literally, I'm scratching my head right now thinking about it because I think it was such a fucking stupid thing for him to do. For a seasoned pro who has got a good temperament on it, I think it was. I can't get my head around it. It was like he had money on it. But yeah, what are your guys? You know, we thought you could go Adama Rumi, you could go for a refereeing decision, or go for it. Fill your boots, Stu.
Signing Huang permanently.
Yep.
That's mine as well.
I think an honourable mention goes to the penalty decision against Man City against Moutinho.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was a fucking huge head scratcher. I thought that was complete farce.
Yeah.
The thing about with Huang is that it wasn't just that we'd signed him because we shouldn't, because he's cack. But it's just the timing of it, in so much that he'd just been there. He'd been there injured for a month, so he hadn't played for us for a month because it was announced on 26th of Jan. He hadn't played for us for about a month at this point because he'd missed 4 games with his injury. And then we just go. I'd say it's 26th of Jan, so it's getting towards the end of the January window, and we just go, ta-da! Here we go. Look, this guy who hasn't done anything for a month, and all right, has had a decent start. We're going to sign him now. And we're just double tags all around. Thinking, what's the rush? why have we got to sign him now? We've got the obligation at the end of the year, haven't we?
Yeah.
And
I think I've got to eat my humble pie. I think my first appearance on this podcast, maybe beginning of February or something like that, and I was like, oh yeah, he could make things happen. He's physical. He moves about. He puts pressure on players. This, that, and the other. And I think when I was watching that Liverpool game last weekend, and he had a Paul Gascoigne style miss, and then ran after the ball and slid in to keep it in play, and then missed the ball completely. I look back on that comment that I made in the middle of February when I was very much a newbie in this podcast with huge regret, because he mugged me off there completely.
We all have these regrets.
To the best of us. Okay, so we've gone from, I guess, head scratcher. Let's lighten the mood a bit. But funniest moment of the season. But mine's actually the same for goal of the season. Seeing Ben Foster get lobbed. As you know, frankly, just getting repeatedly beaten that day had a lot of joy. But I think particularly the lob, because it was essentially from 2 yards out. Well,
I've got that as funniest moment too, because of the South Bank saying "stick that on your fucking YouTube channel."
I mean, that whole day, and Ben Foster just collapsed into himself. It was almost like he'd turned into a black hole. The fact that he's still talking about it, though, there was a video of him talking to Andy Murray the other day on Twitter, and he's still on about it now. And you think that game has properly destroyed his life. It couldn't happen to a better. Well, he takes it in good stead, but it's all panto at the end of the day. But after what he's done to us, yeah, glorious.
Yeah,
Superb
he
day
does
that
seem
was.
like a nice guy, but you can't put the stuff on Twitter that he did and not expect anything in return, like in spades. And
Yeah.
so there you go. He deserves it. I mean, he said before, hasn't he, how much he hates playing at Molyneux. Like
Yeah.
he literally, I think he almost fears coming. I think whoever he signs for next, if he does carry on, he's going to make sure that he doesn't have to play Wolves anytime soon.
Yeah, so get a niggling injury on a Friday sort of vibes. Okay, so we've got two more awards to go, then, fellas. So I've gone for social media moment of the season. Again, take it however you want.
I mean,
Go on.
I must admit, I am not as social media savvy as some of you guys and the rest of the podcast clan, but I saw a screenshot floating around of Yerson Mascara chatting up some girl on Snapchat or something, like saying, you know, like something really, really ridiculous.
Wasn't it something like,
please.
like, I'm sure it was like, hey, gorgeous was the first line, and then like 2 hours later, it's been like, why no response?
Yeah, I just like, you know, he was shooting his shot, and you know, but I just found that quite funny. So yeah, that's mine personally. Yeah,
I'm almost scared to ask, but Stu,
Mr. Miami trying to get Russ sacked from his job. After Villa away. That was an exchange for the ages. And the fact that the beef's still going on, it's gone on for like 8 months.
Yeah.
Mr. Miami versus Mr. Bilston on Twitter.
I'm so perplexed by Mr. Miami. So he lives in Wolverhampton, but he is from the state. Like, why? Just why? What? So he's in Wolverhampton, employed by a football club to go to away cities a week before we play them and do a kind of, you know, travel man type thing. What's going on there?
I mean, he was doing food stuff on
again.
He was doing food stuff on TikTok. That's how he kind of rose to prominence. But why Wolves employ him? Who knows?
Oh,
Is
what
he-
kind of?
is he still-
I live in
is he
England.
still
Look at all this
going?
crazy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he still going? Because it might just be me, but I
gone
haven't
very
heard
quiet.
any. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about him for ages. Maybe because I'm not looking. I don't actively go and see what he's doing. But they used to on Wolves' YouTube section. He's got his own section, hasn't he? All the Mr. Miami stuff. He's got his own bit on Wolves' YouTube, but I don't know. It just seems to have died off a bit. Maybe Russ spoke to the right people and got him silenced.
So, a couple. One in the chat is the drone.
Yes.
That was a great moment.
Also, another really funny moment is the fact that we've got our own record label. I think that's fairly hilarious as well. Just as something which we do now.
I was going to say, I could have included it under funny moments. The fact we're sponsored by like Royal Caribbean as well. Again, the amount of weird sponsors we had this season. I did a quiz on it with Andy and Blake. I think it is bonkers. But
what's quite funny is that at some point during home games, like there's a lull or something, and up on the scoreboards will just pop up like the esports lineup with like champions underneath it, and it's all in Chinese or something. You're thinking, I've got no idea who they are or what they're doing, or you know, they're all there, arms folded in lineup pose with Wolves tops on. Champions, great, well done. Champions of something, but I haven't got a clue what.
Last one, and I feel this is going to be very self-deprecating. This one, but worst take of the season. Again, this could be one of your own. I know Tom, you mentioned about Huang. If you want to use that sound, or have you seen somebody else's and you feel like, you know, pointing the finger, I'll allow you to go all in.
Mate, I'm sorry, but Stu with Sean Dyche is one bit, surely.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one to beat, that one, to be honest.
All in.
And believe me, I've tried to think of others, but Stu's coming late there on the rails, and I just took it.
It was just that screenshot. It was just that screenshot of him that you put in the group chat. Just creased me. Just that face, like you want to.
So I was going to go all in on Sean Dyche because, all right, I appreciate for anyone who isn't the 10 people in our Fancast group chat that there is probably so little relevance. But just think, I'd go all in on Sean Dyche, and then just a barrage of question marks, being like, so the fuck. It's really easy to do on players, and I was trying to find like a Fancast one where tweeted something about Hwang, and there probably is. The nearest one, I wouldn't call it the worst take, but against Arsenal, 25 minutes into the first half, I think it was the first game we played him, I tweeted via the Fancast, Trincat is so close to becoming a dangerous player at this level. By no means is he the finished article, but there's definitely improvement on when he joined. And that's still, and I like Trincat, hence why I posted it. But looking back through some of the replies and quote tweets, and the fact that he didn't really push on in the next 3 months, it's not the worst take. It's no worm eater, but it's not one of the better ones, and I'm happy to front up on it.
I mean, me and Price being the only ones who rated Kilman for a whole year last year. I know it's going to bleed it into the timeline a bit, but then that Luke and Dan trying to take credit for Kilman Club, that's the worst take of the season. I mean, we were there in the trenches. We saw the potential last year, and them to
I know what they're doing, Stu. I've chose to ignore it since that first comment was made. I know what they're doing. I've chose to ignore it and continue to ignore it.
Well,
we know we know we're on the right side of history, Stu. When all said and done, in a few years' time, we know we're on the right side of history.
Well, great place to leave it on the KKC. We're going to take a short break. Now that we've done an hour on the last season, we're going to look ahead at the off-season now. We'll be back just after this. Hi, it's Richard from Wolves Fancast here. Just interrupting today's show before we get back to some questionable opinions and opinionated questions. Talk to you a little bit about our sponsors, Pixel Yeti Media. They are a design agency that put you and your business first, from web design, logo and branding design, and marketing. If you have any marketing needs, get in touch with them to find out how they can help you get it right. They are over at pixelyetimedia.com. Now let's get back to a show where we can give you some really forced wordplay, niche cultural references, and maybe even a bit of football talk. Right, I should probably didn't pick the right time to have a drink in those 32 seconds. Welcome back, everybody. So the only place I think we can start talking about the off-season, guys, is this. Is Bruno the man to take Wolves forward?
Do you want the short answer or the long answer?
Yeah.
Let's go for a short one, and I'll eke out a bit over time. Probably give my views in a really elongated way, and not give you guys any time to actually give your opinions. Let's go for that one.
I think
yes.
Yeah, I think yes. I think yes, provisionally until Christmas. I think that yes, we've got to stick with him, but I would not be surprised if in the middle of the season or by Christmas, or by Christmas, we see a bit of a switch, personally. But now I'm starting to change my mind.
I was going to say, there are YouTube comments.
We've had a bit of a barrage of no's there from on the chat there. But
it was.
I'm still in the yes clan, to be honest, because I've saw a bit of improvement from last year. I know it's finished badly, but if he can get the players he wants in, he's talked a big game, hasn't he, since the season finished. He's talked a big game that we know what we're going to do in the summer. We've got the plans, blah, 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 blah. I've heard it all before. But if he does get the back in, I'm willing to give him, well, what happened to Bruno Ball is the comment there. Well, that went after game 3, didn't it? But I'm willing to give him if he gets backed properly. I'm willing to give him another chance next season. Also, because I've got no idea who I'd wanted to come in to replace him, and not Dyche.
I say Paul in the YouTube comments, who I think say regular listener and contributor. Hello, Paul. Very much on the no side. Now, Stu, you're being surprisingly quiet so far.
I just don't care, and that's kind of says it all. If he was relieved of his duties as a mutual partner of the ways tomorrow, I really wouldn't be asked, and that kind of says it all. Really, if he got he's only had 1.5 players of his own choosing in so far, and he's done a better job than Nuno did with that bunch of players. Obviously, it's the end of the line for a lot of them now, and he needs his own men in. The fact that the whole Ruddy thing's already kind of, oh, well, he wanted him to stay and now he's been got rid of. That's not great, is it? So it already looks, from the outside in, he looks like he's been undermined from the outset. So if he's going to be a little bitch and a yes man and just take what they throw at him, then is he really going to perform? And like one of the comments there, why wait till Christmas? And if something better comes along in the meantime, then... But then Dyche's not going to come in, is he? So I honestly don't care. And I can't see any... If someone else comes in, they're not going to get backed. If he stays, he's not going to get backed. So it's a case of better the devil you know, for me. It's just... At this point in time, on the 29th of May... I just don't know.
It's a strange one in so much that you, as Stu said there, you could take it. You wouldn't be surprised what happens either way. If he stays, you go, okay, fine, yeah, he's done all right. But then equally, if he does go, you'd also say, yeah, because that coming, because of how it's all ended, and you know what owners like these days in hiring and firing. And yes, as a comment said earlier, Lopetegui is apparently available. He was always Bosun's guy, but I don't know if we want to push that button just yet. But I mean, come on, we're entering now the most exciting part of the football calendar, and that is the close season, because this is when we all get renewed optimism. Well, hopefully we do anyway. But then we've now got, at least through June and July, we've got every day we've got a transfer rumour to look forward to of someone, and obviously for us that means Guedes linked every single bloody day for the next 2 months, over and over and over again. But this is exciting times, because now we see the squad overhaul change, and I'm just saying, like, this is how this is. Well, hopefully, this is. We do have Bruno still at charge, because I've seen enough for him to take us forward. But equally, as I've said, if we find out, come Monday morning, it says, in fact, Bruno's been sacked, you could just say, yeah, okay. Could see the signs could see the writing on the wall on that one. As we said, the Ruddy thing going is not off to a great start in that regard. As soon as anything like that comes out, that just shows that the manager's not being listened to. But I don't know. I'm not sure we've got the full story with that one, but I don't know. Like I said, like the comment just said there, then it's just a bit huff and puff. It's just a bit how the season's ended and just tailed off. I think, well, have we got anything exciting to look forward to? Hopefully we do get like a summer of revolution.
Well, yeah, I think we'll start off, I guess, on not I guess a positive note, because all the other ones are about players kind of going and being sad, I guess. But looking to pre-season, And where do Wolves really need to strengthen? I don't know. Let's say you can sign 3 players positionally, style wise. What are we going for, guys? Bearing in mind, I can happily bring up the graphic for the increase of last season where we didn't sign any central players.
Wow, I would say we need to get. Wow, we need to get forward, centre midfielder, centre back, and I think if I had 5 minutes to hash out a plan to sign 3 players, I think the first players that would come into mind would be a player like Breuer, who is on loan at Southampton at the moment. I think Tarkovsky, and then just for old time's sake, Renato Sanchez to see what goes on there. But yeah, those would be the 3 that just off the top of my head. Renato Sanchez, just because of a bit of, I guess you could call it morbid curiosity now, because whether it actually happens or whether he decides to pass the ball to an invisible person and goes out and play like he did for Swansea against Chelsea in a game I saw, we'll see. But yeah, just a bit of curiosity there on my part.
So, Stu, how about you? You've got the summer. You've replaced Scott Sellers. Where we reinforcing?
But it's like Tom said, it's the whole loose spine, ain't it, really? We haven't got a striker. We'll need at least 1 or 2 midfielders. And if we're going to be playing in a back 4, we need someone who can play in a back 4. So you're looking 4 or 5 at least in them. I mean, like we said last week, and we've said for months, all our strikers and forward players are shit anyway, so that makes no difference. But you need at least one focal point who's going to do something. So a central striker is a must. I think you can kind of get by with what we've got out wide when more centrally is more important as a priority. And I think central midfield's been crying out for years, as not so much central defence, but central midfield has been crying out because it puts so much pressure on defence anyway, because we have to play the way we do, because they can't be trusted to do anything going forward. That if you get someone who can do everything in the middle, then you can potentially go with a back 4 of maybe. And I'll put this in the group the other day and got mocked as usual. Someone like, you could go Toti Gomez and Kilman as a back 4. We don't know. It's never happened. Toti's got pace. Kilman's got positional reading. It might work brilliantly, but you wouldn't have as much on them if they're constantly being bombarded all the time and playing defensively. So if we've got someone to carry the ball in midfield, that would be my priority. Midfield and up front.
I suppose the same could be said, though, like if you play Morgan Gibbs-White in his actual position, then that could be seen as a new signing in and of itself. But obviously, Wolves fans are divided on that issue. But I could see him coming in and doing a job, and if he's played in his proper position and not as an ad hoc addition to a squad where no one really knows the impact he's going to make, he could revolutionise the way we play the game.
Well, I was going to say that nicely does bring us on to our kind of my next thing, particularly about Gibbs-White. So that we have, I guess, sort of 3 lone players around Wolves who I think a decision needs to be made. Let's be honest. We've got Gibbs-White, who's coming back to Wolves off the back of a fantastic season with Sheffield United, who I think it's very clear that he is at a crossroads. He can either keep going at Wolves and potentially play first team football in whatever formation, or he needs to go and get that £20 million move to a newly promoted team or a recently relegated team. You've got Adama Traore, who's coming back off loan from Barcelona. He's got a year left on his contract. Enigmatic, inconsistent, in and out, whatever. I can't think of any of it in words I can use to describe him. But Wolves either need to work out if they're going to get him a new contract, whether they're going to let him run it down for another 12 months, get nothing for him, or sell him for what's going to be a cup price free. And you've got Trincao, who hasn't lit the world like. There have been flashes, but very, very dim flashes. In a true sense, there's definitely a player there. But Wolves have probably got an option of whether that's the right thing. So, I guess really quickly, Trincao, should we keep / sign him or send him back to Barca? Stu.
Shooting.
Barca's that way, by the way, which is the front of my living room.
With the money that we haven't got, we can't be taking any more risks. So, unfortunately, I think he's probably going to go. I mean, it sounds like he doesn't want to stay anyway, so it's a null and void point. But if it was a swap deal, we'd try to do it all day long, just because of the potential wise and whatever. But spending actual money when there's other priorities, nah, not for me. Even for me, wrong time, wrong situation.
How much do you think he's worth, Stu?
I mean, depends how much. I mean, if Villa could get Coutinho for what was it, 20 million, with his age, I'd guess they'd probably want about between 15 and 20 for him, and even that, I don't think we can do that. I don't think we'll spend money anyway, regardless of Trincao, but we're just not in that position. So, I mean, I can see there's something there with him. And I know I'll be shot down all day long over this, but I don't care. He's obviously got talent. It might be too early for him in the Premier League. I know he's 22, wherever, but he's too weak. He needs building up on the Neto pre-season building train again. Put that in winch up, but yeah. So but we haven't got the money to do it, so we have to send him back.
I remember that cliche. There's a player in there somewhere being used many times for Rajiv Van La Parra.
The greatest Dutchman ever.
Still got paid.
But he still got paid. Hate him every week, still gets paid. For me, I think I was quite clear early on about Trincao. I never thought it was much good for us. I'm not saying he's going to be a bad player for the rest of his career. It's just not worked for us. And I do remember when he had his first good game. I think who was it again? Was it Leeds? I think it was Leeds at home, and he scored and assisted. And there's lots of comments like online saying, that's he's good. He's definitely one to keep and consider for the future. I'm like, well, that's one game. What about the previous 30 where he's done that absolutely nothing at all? You can't make the case for a player after one game out of so long of contributing nothing. He probably doesn't really want to. He doesn't even want to stay himself long term. He hasn't contributed. It's very, very, very hard to make a case to spend money on him for that purpose. So for me, it was thanks for turning up, but we'll send you back to Espana.
So I guess my kind of question, Tom, would be: so we talked about Adama and his situation as well, and then money impacting within that as well. Would we all be okay with just a swap deal for Trincao for Adama? I don't see it happening because of Barca's finances and the fact he's done nothing over there. But would you be happy with that? I know you've mentioned that you're a fan of Adama.
I don't know. I think with Trincao, he hasn't done enough for me to prove that he is worth keeping on. And I'm a man who likes idiosyncrasies and enigmatic players. And even though Traore is by far from the full ticket and can be very frustrating, he brings a bit more life to the squad. And for that reason, I would like to see him back personally. And if I'm being honest, and I know they're probably in the minority, I was ashamed when I saw him leave and go to Barca. Even though, as I said, he makes me pull my hair out, I would rather have a player who is exciting and gets me off my seat and ultimately makes me really frustrated and annoyed than a player that makes me feel nothing. And Trincao, unfortunately, doesn't make me feel an awful lot other than his nice goal against Leeds and his goal against Forest in the Cup.
That's fair. That's fair. So, last one we need to speak about is Gibbs White. We mentioned him a few times now. Let's just assume. I don't quite know what I'm assuming, but the option is that he can either move for £20 million or he can stay, and he is playing in the first team at Wolves. Now, that's not mean he's going to start every week, but he's at least going to be in the squad every week, let's say, whether it's sub or whatever. If you were Morgan Gibbs White, what would you do? Let's say if everything stays the same with Lage, whatever, and we hopefully change style a little bit. So there's a bit of a natural evolution. If you're Gibbs White, do you stay with Wolves, give it another crack, and probably start one every other game plus? Or do you go and making sure you're a bit more of a big fish in a small pond without any disrespect to anyone else?
If I'm Morgan Gibbs White, after the season I've had, when you've been an integral part to that club getting into a playoff space and all the rest of it, I would want assurances from Wolves that I'm going to be part of the system and be playing every game in some capacity. And the only way I would accept being a squad player if I was signing for a team, like West Ham or something, like a team that's finished above us in the table. If Wolves were going to offer some kind of agreement where I would be a squad player, then I would feel shortchanged and I'd probably look to go somewhere else. So I hope that an agreement is made, because I think that there's a lot of promise there. But yeah, if I'm Morgan Gibbs White and I'm staring down the barrel of a choice between playing every week somewhere else potentially who won't finish as high as us, or playing as a squad player for Wolves, I think I'd be choosing to play every week in maybe a Notts Forest or something like that.
You want the club to invest in you, basically make a statement and say,
yeah,
we believe in you. We want you to play. The danger is like that he's been messed around by Wolves before, as we've seen. We've recalled him off loans where he was doing well. It was Swansea, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah. Snatched him back, didn't we?
Yeah, took him back, messed him about. We've normally not played to his strengths when we brought him back. He's got a bit of shit off the fans online, which surely won't make him want to come rushing back to us. So if you're him or his advisors or whatever, you want to sit there and just say, look, if I'm going to stay, I want you to invest in me as a person and player. So that means perhaps sign longer term. I don't know what his contract situation is, but maybe long term contract. Sit there and say, look, you're going to be a vocal part of the team. As you said, you're not going to be a guaranteed starter. No one's really guaranteed starter, but you will be a key point of our midfield / forward line most weeks. He just wants that. I guess he just wants that assurance. That comfort that he will be a valued member of the first team. And whether or not he feels that will ever be the case with us is another matter. I'm trying to think. Based upon his recent history with us, I would dare say that he will probably be looking to pastures new. I think he would, unless we can really sweet talk him. I say we, like the club, if we can sweet talk him round, and he's got the bargaining chip of having a good season with Sheffield United under his belt. He said, "Look, this is what I can do, given the full season run of games." But I just think, given recent history, I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at it with Sheffield United as well. He didn't play the position that we think is his best position is like a 10. He barely played there for them. He was playing like
wing.
He was playing
he was up front a lot, wasn't he?
He was playing either a second striker or wide left or wide right in a forward three. He did play a few as a 10, but he almost had a free role. But I mean, if I'm him, I wouldn't be getting out of bed. If you look at his misses, I mean, come on. But I would not be even entertaining coming back here. I mean, why would he? He's had shit from an early age when he was rubbish, admittedly. When he had a chance, Nuno didn't play him in the right place. He was messed around on loan over and over again. And half the fans hate him anyway, regardless of how good a season he's had. And I've said this a few times, that if you look at a kid with them stats in the Championship, like what Mason Mount did when he went on loan to Derby, and you take his name out of it, and he comes back, and we sign him, someone like that, everyone, oh, well, his first choice, he has to start. Because it's Gibbs White, you're thinking, oh, well, he'll be a squad player at best. And it's nonsense. The whole thing is nonsense. I don't know why he'd even... If he's got a chance to get somewhere else, I'd 100% take it if I was him. Why wouldn't you?
Well, for me, it's the fact that, does he improve this Wolves team? Yes, he does. You know, we talked about Trincao. Does it improve this Wolves team dramatically? No. So I'd be happy for us not to sign Trincao if it means that the minutes that Trincao gets, Gibbs White gets.
I just think, as you say, we need to invest time into him, and I'd be interested to hear your take on this, boys, as well. Like, if he wasn't a local lad, do you think he would be giving so much grace to this club? It's a weird one, isn't it? He obviously loves the club. He wants to establish himself there, but you're right. He hasn't been treated well by the club itself. The fans give him shit. I mean, it's one of those. And I remember when he scored against West Brom he scored against last season? Brighton, sorry.
Goal, yeah.
My bad,
Stripes.
Brighton. Yeah, those rivals, Brighton. When he scored against Brighton at home, you could tell that meant a lot to him. And, you know, someone could respond to that and say, well, you're playing in the Premier League, every goal you score should mean a lot to you. But I don't know. I'd be happy to give him one more chance for sure. But as both Stu and Pricey have both said, I would not be surprised if he decides to sign for a club newly promoted like Notts Forest and play 90 minutes every week and feel much happier and be a better player for it.
Yeah, I think very least. We're all in agreement here. I don't think we'd hold any grudges against him for the move, because there's clearly a talented player in there. Whether, you know, we may or may not disagree with his Premier League quality, but he's definitely above Championship, that average Championship now, which is, I think, where a couple of fans assumed he might end up. I personally didn't. I've always been a big fan of his. But look, you got to take your chances, and if he can keep on developing somewhere else and whatever, then good for him. The other kind of one I wanted to touch on is pre-season's always a great chance to get a look at up-and-coming players as well, usually. And we know Bruno's track history with players, but who do we think is going to step up in pre-season and next season? So a lot of, I've pulled up 4 players in Gibbs White, Kundal, Chiquinho and Totti, who all kind of, apart from Gibbs White, have all kind of had flitters with the first team this season. We won't talk Gibbs White because, you know, we talked about him. But do we see any of those 3 having an impact next season, or do we see, because there's been talk of, you know, Chiquinho going out on loan, which I know will infuriate Stuart. So Stu, in terms of, do you see them? Where do you kind of see all their 3 futures going into next season?
I think out of all them, I think Totti's got the bigger chance. I think Totti's great. I don't understand what all this. Oh, he's raw, but he played in a top flight. Yeah, Switzerland. Who cares? He's not done anything wrong. And he played against Liverpool the other week. Again, not phased one bit. He's the right age. He's got a chance to develop. Now Sace has gone. Well, we presume Sace is going to go. I just don't get it. It's just because he doesn't cost like 40 million quid. If we'd signed him from somewhere else, this is like the whole Kilman thing that we had last year. Yeah. If Kilman had been putting the performances in as Kaleta or anyone else who we were linked with last season, everyone would have been loving it. But because he was little Max Kilman from Maidenhead, well, who cares where they come from, how much they cost? If they're good enough, leave them where they are. And I think Toti Gomez is a player. I really do. I think them 4. I think he's got a bigger chance next season for us.
Yeah, I agree.
I think. Yeah, sorry, Tom. I was just going to say that the tendency there is to like maybe pick a Chiquinho because he's the exciting winger. But since Toti's come in, he's been near perfect. He's barely put a foot wrong. I just said it doesn't matter where you come from. A find is a find. If you've picked a guy off Fowler's Park and he comes in and then he doesn't put a foot wrong, doesn't matter. Same with Kilman. Toti's just come out of nowhere. He got his debut, and we're all like, "Bloody hell, this guy's good. He's class. He's tiger in the tackle, good on the ball. What's not to like?" So they say this is going, which we think he will be. There's a spot open up there. Now, obviously, it depends on whether we stick to 3 at the back or switch to 4. That might depend on any opportunities that he gets. But it's there. It's the spot's there for him to be grabbed. I hope he doesn't go back out on loan again. But absolutely, Toti's the one out of those 3 to really step forward and stake a claim.
Yeah,
Chiquinho hopefully should be there or thereabouts because that's just such a big impact in a short time. And Kundal will be there probably, as a squad player, I guess, next season.
they've got to come from somewhere, haven't they? And I think if there's any kind of reflection of that statement, it's the fact that if at the beginning of the season someone said we are going to be starting a player that's been on loan to Grasshoppers and a player that is coming on loan to Barcelona, who's going to be better? I think we would all say Trincao in that instance, but the proof's in the pudding, and I think we need to sometimes swallow our pride and accept that some decent players are going to come from pretty modest beginnings, and that's fine. Hence, Max Kilman and hopefully Toti. But I agree with Chiquinho. I think we've got to keep giving him chances. I don't think he's ready to start. And with Kundal, I think that I could see him going out on loan, maybe to someone else in the Premier League. Who knows? I think he's a good enough player, and obviously putting in a shift in the under-23s. But definitely one for the future. But right now, nowhere near maybe starting week out.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with all your points, which is quite nice for a change, guys. Right, we're going to wrap up today's show with a bit of a quiz in a slightly different format. So, because we do sometimes like to share the workload in the Fancast, we've all got a couple of questions each. So it actually means I get to compete for once, which, just saves me, just Googling the answers. So who wants to go first to deliver their question? So how we've done it, I'm hoping we've done it this way because I've done mine like this anyway. So I've done one sort of general Premier League based this season. I've done one Wolves based, but it's not just this season. So my 2 questions are, who won? I thought you even wrote it down. Who won the most aerial duels in the Premier League this season?
Most aerial duels. I'm trying to think who's
tall.
Lump at the back. I might say it was mentioned before, but I might just say Tarkowski.
Oh, you know what? I want to go with Maguire.
Oh, this is so tough. I'm going to go with I don't know, Kane.
It was Chris Wood.
No way.
Second place was Tarkowski.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Dodgeball.
Okay, so my Wolves related question was, and I phoned this one in, I'm going to be honest, guys. Who was the last permanent senior signing Kenny Jackett made?
Oh.
I feel like I put a lot of variables into that question, I'm not going to lie.
Permanent signing.
I've got one.
He didn't sign anyone before he got sacked, did he?
James
Did he sign anyone
Henry.
before that?
That seems early.
Oh God, yeah. It was me thinking that. I was just thinking League One. No, he had a stab at the Championship, didn't he? I'm gonna, in the interest of time, I'm gonna have a go at. Oh no, I can't. I was gonna say Shea Ojo, but I can't be right, can it?
Jeez, I've not thought about him in ages.
He was on loan from Liverpool. He went back after 6 months because he was awful.
I caught.
What do he play for now? I'm gonna Google it.
He was at Rangers, wasn't he?
I saw him last season somewhere.
Jay Ojo. He is currently playing for Millwall.
Oh,
Of course he
yeah.
is.
That's a well-trodden path.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah.
Is it going to be someone nonsense like Lonergan?
I was going to say Lonergan. I was thinking Lonergan. I wasn't quite sure.
Well, we're
Rich.
going for answers, boys.
Put us out of our misery.
Rather annoyingly, it's Handy Lonergan
Yeah.
because Kenny Jackett was technically manager for us at the start of that season. We sacked him on the 29th of July, of which we then signed Silver the next day.
Yeah, that was my thing.
But-
That's what I said right at the start. I thought he signed someone before he got sacked.
Yeah, we signed Andy Lonergan and also Elliot Watt, but he was on a free transfer, so I think he was like a youth academy signing. So go on. Who wants to go next, Tom? I know you were keen, and I know you could have supplied
pretty keen.
plenty more questions as well.
Okay, I'll start with my Wolves question. So, when Wolves lost 1-0 at home to Man United at the end of August, Wolves got 3 yellow cards. Now, the first yellow card was obviously from Sace. The second yellow card was Neves, but who got our third?
Ooh.
I'm going to say Marcel.
Marcel, Semedo, Rich.
I'm now panicking if he played, but Silver?
Okay. It was Morgan Gibbs-White.
Unbelievable.
Did he go on loan straight after that game? Then?
He also did make an impact in our squad this season. Now the second question, we saw Rob Edwards go from Forest Green Rovers to Watford as manager at the end of this season. Now, obviously, 100 caps for Wolves, but finished his career at Barnsley 2011 to 2013. Can you name the 2 teams that he went on loan out to, though, during his time at Barnsley?
During his time at Barnsley. Okay.
If you've been loaned from Barnsley, that's pretty grimmy.
Was Blackpool one of them? I kind of think I kind of thought Blackpool was in there, but maybe not.
I'm gonna ignore the fact you said that, and you can try again.
Oh.
You know what?
I ignore people who think out loud.
I'll go for someone like Forest Green and Queen of the South, or someone like that. That's more.
Forest Green and Queen of the South, lovely.
I'm going to go for that neck of the woods, let's say. So I'll go Scunthorpe.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a memory, if not a pretty good one, but I'm sure he played for another team around here. I think he might have played Shrewsbury Town.
Okay.
I was going to say Swindon and Coventry.
So, Rich, he did play for Shrewsbury Town. And,
he's a former Wolves player. Of course, he's played for Shrewsbury Town.
And Fleetwood Town as well. So I think you get the point.
Did you say Blackpool?
Fleetwood and Shrewsbury.
Yeah, but I was going to say Fleetwood's near Blackpool, so maybe that's where you were going. I see.
he
Maybe.
actually signed for Blackpool from Wolves, but then yeah, there you go. Fucking hell. Why am I spending my Sunday evening at 10:12 talking about where fucking Rob Edwards played at the end of his career?
Right then, Pricey, let's have yours then, and we'll speed this bad boy up.
Right then. So, Wolves related question first then. So, in a match where Raul started and played the 90 minutes, which game did he have the fewest touches and how many was it?
Oh, depressing.
So if you can tell me the team, and if you can tell me the team that we played and the number of touches that he had, you get double bubble. Don't forget, caveat there is he started and played the 90.
Yeah. That's a tasty one, that is, Adam.
Can I
have it where like he played against Man City and got sent off? That's invalid. Yes, he played full 90.
I'm going to say West Ham, and he took 22 touches.
Okay.
Brentford 9.
It's all on Rich.
It is, and that's never a good thing, is it? That West Ham, you're thinking West Ham away, aren't you? That's a really good shout, isn't it?
Beginning of or end of.
Yeah. I'll go Arsenal with 40. No, because I know I was going to say 40, but I know how many Hwang had the other day. So I'll go, Arsenal 58.
Okay. Unfortunately, none of you were right.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's a good chance.
Quite stingy with the touches as well, and 9 was shaped as well. The correct answer was Leicester at home, and he had 29 touches of the ball. So, moving on then to the general one. Can you name, and I'll buy you a pint if you can get them in order. Can you name all 10 managers who have lost their jobs this season?
Is that in the Premier League?
In the Premier League, sorry, yes.
Okay, so
are we going to do this
Nuno
or what?
Yeah, I think should we do this collaboratively because I don't quite know how we'll be able to do it otherwise, apart from shouting over. So I'm going to go Nuno and get it out of the way.
I'll tick them off as you go along. So Nuno, correct.
Dean
he was
Smith.
The third man. He was the third manager to go. Nuno.
I'm surprised he made it that long. Don't worry, I've got the visual for anyone who's watching.
Benitez.
Dean Smith was the 5th one to go. Benitez was the 7th one to go.
All 3 at Watford.
Can you name them, Stu?
So, I need names, Stu. I need names.
Was it Cisco? Cisco one?
Cisco Munoz.
Yeah. Thong Song Munoz. Yeah, he was the first one to go.
Ranieri and technically Woy.
Yeah, Ranieri was the 8th one to go.
The German Xavi from
can't have Woy.
He's lost his job.
Daniel Fark.
That's not Daniel Fark.
Yeah, Fark.
Daniel Fark, yes. He was the 4th one to go.
Bielsa.
Yes, Bielsa. He was a
9th.
Solskjaer, yeah.
He was the 6th one to go.
So I think we got 9. Who are we missing?
You're missing 2. You got 8. There's 2 to go. I'm surprised you haven't got one of them, to be honest.
Have I scouted one of them? I thought I had 9.
No, he's disqualifying Hodgson. Saying it's unfair.
Cabbage Head. Brucey.
And
yes.
Bielsa.
Bruce.
You got Bielsa?
Got Bielsa.
Okay, so we've got what? I know who the last one is.
Yeah. Really
go on, Sean. It's like, go on, Stu.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
The big man.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when he takes over here in a month's time.
The next Wolves manager, according to Stu, the last one was Dyche. So there you go. You got there in the end.
See, because I don't think of him being sacked. He's just having a holiday before he rocks up here. That's all that's happening.
And Benidorm, probably.
Okay, Stu, your question, and if it's where was Sean Dyche born, we're ending this production.
Sean Dyche born.
It was going to be which pub are we going to name after Sean Dyche, but we'll move that later. According to the Premier League website, which Wolves player was the first one to give away a foul this season?
Neves.
Marcel. I'm going for him again.
Jimenez.
All round nothings. It was 7th minute away at Leicester for Trincao.
Oh,
Trincao. I was thinking Trincao. I thought, no, it's going to be too simple.
God, yeah. He's so reputably dirty
Yeah.
and physical and
Yeah.
it's like to get stuck in. Reminds me of Razor Ruddock a little bit. To be fair.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'll share the individual photo of him. He's got noodles for arms, Annie.
Fair play.
There's no meat on them. He is going to have to, hit the Pedro Neto regime.
Same for me.
The reason.
By the way, I realise I'm playing with my hair. I am not just flexing my lack of muscles.
But the main reason I was on the Premier League website today, because I spent, best part of 45 minutes to an hour, looking up how many times we've worn our away and third kit in the last 4 years. But the question is, in the last 4 seasons away from home, how many times have we worn gold shorts?
Oh my God.
Fucking hell, that's a great question.
In the last 4 years.
So basically, since we got promoted.
Yeah.
I like how I'm like asking, like, you just need to qualify it, not for any reason like it's going to make any difference, because it's just we're just going to take stabs at it. It's just to buy me more time while I think of a number between like 1 and 10. It's not that many.
Just
didn't even wear against Hull, did we?
What do we think? Do we like the gold on gold, or do we prefer the gold on black? What do we prefer?
I'd love a whole season of gold on gold.
Just fully gold.
Like the 60s, yeah, bring it back.
Like Honved in the 50s, yeah, get it fully gold. Well,
To be
that
fair,
was pretty much a onesie, wasn't it? The Honved 50s one. It was, just, it was like an apron.
I think it's just getting used to it. So I think I think it'll be an eyesore, and after 3 games you'll be fine with it. But I'm going to go for 4.
In 4 years,
it's a good number, isn't it?
I remember. I'm sure we wore it against Besiktas.
Premier League only.
Premier League only.
No.
Stuart, it's not a trick
I'm
question.
going to bring it down to. I'm going to bring it down to 3. Then if we've just gone 4, I'll go 3.
Oh mate,
Tom's going to go 5 in it.
I'm going to go with 1. Like in the new regime with Adidas and Castore, I don't think I can't recall seeing the gold shorts.
Well, you would be confused because we've only had gold shorts in our first season back in the W8 year, and it was 4 times.
Oh, well, there you go.
Newcastle, Fulham, Spurs, and Southampton.
Magnificent scenes.
And for context, we wore our away shirt 5 times. The year after that, we wore the black one 4 and the green one twice. The whole year of lockdown, I did this research. I'm getting this info out there. The whole year of lockdown, we wore this monstrosity cloud shirt once. The Liverpool away got battered 4-0, and the Portugal shirt 5 times. And then this season, the bus seat was worn twice, and the white one was worn 3 times. So the away kit really does pay for itself.
Did you do this during the Grand Prix? Because we know nothing happens in Formula 1.
I doubt it was red flag twice today. So now that was done this morning. 9 weeks till the season starts.
That was about 100 times better than my Rob Edwards question. So
I was going to say that. As I mentioned the other day, guys, we definitely do like a quickly Kevin style Wolves Fancast quiz, and we'll have probably Dan, who is our usual chief quiz master general, do some quizzes for us, because that is the end of the show. It is the end of the season, guys. Thank you so much for listening throughout this year. It's we do this in our spare time. We've knocked out nearly 2 hours, and it is usually a joy chatting Wolves with your mates. Even if sometimes the football's a bit crap. But thank you so much for everyone who's listened, if you've watched on YouTube and you've liked and subscribed and whatever. That's something we've been really proud of, kind of pushing and growing this year. So thank you so much. We're going to try and bring you as much content as we can during the off season, whether it's one-off specials or breaking news or whatever. We're going to try our best to still kind of keep you informed of our opinions if you like it, and if you don't, still listen, and hopefully you'll turn you around. We usually try to. No. Big thanks to 90 Min Football Network. I was going to say, not that they'll probably listen to 50 minutes into us, but it's been great being part of their network this season, and also to Pixel Yeti Media as well. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, definitely go do it now. Make sure you follow us on our social media. It's at Wolves Fancast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also YouTube stuffy as well. And yeah, we will be back. I was going to say really soon. Hopefully, we'll be might take a couple of weeks off or whatever, or sometime, but we'll try our best to bring you as much silliness and Wolves related stuff as possible. That's the Fancast guarantee. But until next time, it's goodbye from Tom.
Yeah, goodbye. And can I say thank you very much for having me on board. It's been very refreshing to speak about this fucking stupid football club with a bunch of new people. So yeah, thanks a lot.
And it's also been nice to have someone else who doesn't have a ridiculously strong Wolverhampton accent on as well. And it's brought down my own, as Stu would say, posh levels, but it's potentially having you involved has raised the average up as well. So thank you. It's goodbye from Pricey.
This way, over here. Yes, me.
Yeah.
See you later, everyone.
It's goodbye from Stu.
Enjoy the summer. Eat your worms. Goodbye.
And it's goodbye for me. Catch you all soon.